Welcome to another Agency Playbook. Craig Pretzinger here, co-founder of the Insurance Dudes, and obviously an agency owner myself. Want to dive in and really go really far back and talk about what to look for, 3 important things that you should be looking for if you're diving into the insurance world. So if you've been an agent a while, something to think about. This may be some reflection here. And if you're considering diving in, maybe you work in an agency and now you want to become the owner, or you're coming from an entirely different world and looking at the insurance business, this is for you. So let's dive in.
Insurance dudes are on a mission to escape being handcuffed by our agencies.
How? By uncovering the secrets to creating a predictable, consistent, and profitable agency sales machine.
I am Craig Pretzinger.
I am Jason Feldman.
We are agents.
We are Insurance Dudes.
First thing that you're going to want to do is understanding that this is a long play and you're looking at delayed gratification. Now, that doesn't mean necessarily that you got to wait 10, 15, 20 years before this thing starts making serious profits. But what also needs to be considered is how quickly you can get to that situation of profits. Now, the harder you push in the beginning, and this doesn't necessarily mean just you yourself, how hard you're working, but as you'll see, we get into some of the stuff or the ability with which you're able to scale. So the first thing I want to look at is talk about the 3 different types of agencies that you could come into. And there's pros and cons with each. We're not going to really dive too far into those, but we do want to talk about the 3 types. So number 1, there's independent agencies. These agencies, you have access to a lot of different carriers. You could plug in with maybe an agent who's going to bring on other agents underneath them. That'd be called an MSA or a master service agency. So that's the first part. Or you could get appointed with a multitude of different carriers. Lots of different ways to go. Now, the beautiful thing about being independent is you're not tied to conform to any standard. So, for example, some of the carriers are going to require signage or different things if you're only tied to that one carrier. Whereas here, some great opportunity. Now, you don't have a lot of the help from the carrier that you could have if you were plugged in with just one carrier, but we'll dive into those now. Well, the second half would be captive carriers. Now, the first one, or let's divide that into 2 pieces. The first one being captive carriers where you have economic interest in the book. Now, farmers, a couple of the others are going to be more closely aligned with this type of strategy. Now, they're going to also have, in addition to you being an entrepreneur or an independent contractor, you are going to have agency standards that you have to follow. So it's important to understand that it's kind of like a franchise because you are going to be required to follow and conform to a certain set of rules. But in exchange for that, you could have different missions. You could have a lot of different opportunities that may not be present in the independent world. But again, slightly handcuffed because you may have to follow certain procedures, use certain tools that can hamper your ability to really be totally. And then there's also the captive where you don't have economic interest. This is like State Farm and some other carriers where you can't sell the book out on the open market like you could with Farmers or one of these other ones, but you can sell it back to the carrier. So it has its pluses and minuses. So that's the first thing is understanding what platform you're going to be, right? How are you going to create the structure of your agency and what works best for you? You don't want to just dive in and do anything. You got to do something that you feel that aligns best with you. It's going to make you feel great every day and make you want to wake up and get to the office. And you got to be ready to push. So the beginning part is going to really dictate the rest of the career. So the first couple of years, it's important to understand there's going to be a lot of effort put in, and the best way to snowball that agency and create the most amount of premium is to take anything that you make and put it right back in. You got to snowball that money. So that's real important, is understanding that. The faster you're able to snowball and the faster you're able to invest in whatever marketing you're going to do to grow, then the faster you're going to get to those higher premiums earlier, right? And we can't recoup time. So yes, you may be learning. Yes, it may be daunting. Yes, there may be a lot going on, but leveraging others to create growth within the agency, super critical. That takes us to the second part. The second most important thing to consider when you're jumping into this world is that you need to be an expert in hiring and training. This is the most important thing up front because there will be turnover. You will be learning. You're going to make mistakes. It's going to be challenging because you're learning at the same time that you're teaching your team, and they're going to be turning over. So it's sort of like you're taking off in the airplane and building it at the same time. So we have to get really good at putting the right people people into place so that we could scale. It's been my experience. I have never been able to scale my agency on my own. It's unsustainable. Even if you're crushing it, you're the best salesperson, you're doing all the things that are going to create leverage, unlock leverage of time for yourself. You're probably doing a lot of the stuff, the day-to-day in the agency in the beginning. But again, the most important piece is finding the best players for the team and then trading those players. Because if we're writing all the business, we're tapped out maybe 40K, right? Doing everything that we can in the agency. Well, 40K is not scaled growth, but having 4, 5, 6 producers who are writing 25 to 40K each, that creates scale and that creates speed of growth. Now, next thing is be prepared to invest in marketing. Marketing is what creates the traffic that then turns into sales. A lot of sales leaders, a lot of agents that you talk to are going to talk about, well, you got to get really good at sales. That's absolutely 100% true. We have to get really good at sales, but we have to get good at filling the pipeline as well. And the only way to fill the pipeline is with marketing. For me, I love internet leads. I hated them for years and years, but I like to buy internet leads because I could control the traffic. So in testing a multitude of different things, this has worked out the best. Now, whatever you do, whether it's direct mail, whether you're buying internet leads, whatever you're going to invest your money on in order to drive traffic to your agency, make sure that you understand the benchmark metrics you need to look for and the anticipated time that it takes to achieve those benchmarks, and give it more time than those benchmarks, because you're likely not going to be doing well necessarily off the bat. All of it's a learning curve, and it's important to not make emotional, quick decisions in that marketing venue. We want to know our benchmarks. We want to work backwards, and we want to look after 30 days, after 60 days, after 90 days. We want to look for trends, and we want to look for those for where we have improvements. If it's not improving, okay, we're going to cut it. But we should know if we're going in the right direction. So these are the 3 things that a lot of folks don't think about or don't dive into as they jump into the insurance industry. So think about those before you dive in, and let's crush it in this business. Love it.